Welcome to your custom deep dive. Today, we're building this specifically for you, taking a really hard look at the everyday athlete. Usually when we think about athletic performance, there's this expectation of like mechanical simplicity.
Right, yeah.
We treat the human body like a basic combustion engine. You put high-octane fuel in a tank, you press down on the gas pedal, and you just go fast. It feels like a very straightforward, linear equation.
It's a very comforting way to view things, honestly. I mean, we like our biology to be predictable, but the moment you step into the actual cutting-edge world of sports science, that simple engine model just completely shatters.
Totally.
We're looking at a performance landscape that is wildly complex. It's this intricate, highly adaptable ecosystem, constantly shifting based on your environment, your stress, and, your microscopic biology.
And that actually brings us to our mission for you today. Because, well, science moves slower than social media.
Yeah.
These findings represent the best the research world has right now, some published just months ago. We're not chasing trends. We're bringing you what's actually been studied, tested, and published.
Exactly. Our focus is strictly on the everyday athlete, the weekend warrior, the endurance enthusiast.
Right.
We're decoding the latest 2025 and 2026 sports science research to figure out what is really going on under the hood. So we're going to look at the gut microbiome as your internal training partner, the shift toward personalized fueling.
Oh, I thought it was fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. And we'll get into the cellular mechanics of Zone 2 training and the actual evidence-based truth about cold plunges in sleep.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the gut, because before we can even talk about moving the body, we have to look at the microscopic machinery powering it. For a long time, I think we just thought of gut bacteria as passengers. I mean, I always just pictured my stomach as a pouch that dissolves food. But they're actually doing something while we exercise.
Oh, they are profoundly active. There's this fascinating 2025 systematic review by Carlone and colleagues, which, importantly, included both male and female high-level athletes, and it completely reframed this.
Oh.
They found that the gut microbiome actively modulates your energy metabolism and regulates your inflammatory response. And there's one specific bacteria that perfectly illustrates this called Veillonella.
Wait, hold on. Active modulator. You lost me for a second.
Yeah.
Break down exactly what is happening in my gut while I'm, say, out for a long run.
Sure. So when you run hard, your muscles produce lactate.
Right, that burning feeling.
Exactly. That's the chemical responsible for that heavy burning sensation in your legs when you're pushing your limits. Well, what Veillonella does is absolutely remarkable. It's highly prevalent in the guts of endurance athletes, and it literally feeds on that exercise-induced lactate.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it pulls the lactate out of your bloodstream, consumes it, and converts it into a short-chain fatty acid called propionate.
So it's taking the very thing that makes my legs burn the metabolic waste and eating it.
Yeah.
What does the propionate do?
Your body shuttles that propionate directly to the liver, where it's used as a clean, highly efficient energy source.
That is wild. So they aren't passengers at all. They're like an internal pit crew actively recycling your exhaust into fresh fuel mid-race.
That's a perfect analogy, yeah.
But to understand how to feed this pit crew, we need to get our terminology straight. I hear prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics thrown around constantly on like wellness blogs, and it honestly all blurs together.
It is a really confusing space, I know. But think of it like growing a garden. Prebiotics are the fertilizer, mostly fermentable fibers from your diet, like garlic or onions. They feed the ecosystem.
Okay.
Probiotics are the live seeds in plants themselves, the actual beneficial bacteria doing the work. And postbiotics are the harvest.
Ah, the harvest.
Right. They're the beneficial metabolic byproducts, like that propionate we just mentioned, that the bacteria leave behind for your body to actually use.
But I have to push back here. Is the performance gut full of Veillonella something you're just genetically born with? Or can you actually build it?
The research shows the microbiome is highly plastic. You can absolutely build it, but it responds aggressively to what you feed it. A high-sugar, highly processed diet literally starves those beneficial workers. This leads to something called dysbiosis.
Dysbiosis, let's define that. That sounds like a sci-fi villain.
It essentially means the bad bacteria have overrun the good. But mechanically what happens is those harmful bacteria start punching microscopic holes in your gut lining.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, toxins leak into your bloodstream, which triggers your immune system to launch a massive inflammatory response. Your body gets so busy fighting this internal fire that your workout recovery completely stalls.
So if I'm a weekend warrior wanting to upgrade that internal pit crew, how do I apply this tomorrow morning? because I don't want to buy a bunch of expensive supplements.
Keep it simple. Add just one fermented food or a solid source of prebiotic fiber to your diet this week. Kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, or even just adding more onions to your meals. Do that one thing and just notice how your daily energy and your recovery respond.
I love that. Simple and actionable. Now, if our gut bacteria are basically the engine's mechanics, that completely changes how we should think about the fuel we're putting in. Which brings up a fascinating pivot in the science.
It does. We are rapidly moving away from the old school generic advice. It used to be, just eat a giant bowl of pasta the night before a big run.
Right, the classic carb load.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But nutrition is entering the era of highly individualized fueling. A 2026 study by Deng introduced the IMAPON framework, the Integrative Microbiome Athletic Performance Optimization Network.
Okay, integrative microbiome, it sounds incredibly dense. So what does this all mean? How is this actually working? Do we need an AI supercomputer just to eat a sandwich before a run?
Well, kind of. It's essentially an artificial intelligence framework. The AI cross-references an athlete's microbiome swab data, their genetic markers, and continuous glucose monitor readings.
Wow.
And it looks at all these data points and generates highly precise dietary recommendations. Because an apple might give you a perfect, steady stream of energy, but that exact same apple might cause a massive blood sugar spike and crash in someone else, purely based on their unique gut bacteria.
So it's abandoning the idea of generic fuel entirely.
Exactly. The science now views nutrition not just as raw calories, but as a molecular dial.
A molecular dial.
Yeah. What you eat literally alters your gene expression. It changes how efficiently your mitochondria, the powerhouses of your cells, produce energy.
But there is massive blind spot here in the research that we have to call out. When we talk about dialing in nutrition, who is the science actually dialed in for?
That is a critical issue. If we look at a 2025 report from the Gatorade Sports Science Institute, they highlighted a staggering statistic. Historically, only 0 to 8% of exercise nutrition studies have utilized female-only participants.
Wait, 0 to 8%?
Yes.
That is almost non-existent.
It really is. For decades, sports science basically treated women as smaller men to avoid the complexity of controlling for the menstrual cycle in their study designs. But this matters immensely because female hormonal fluctuations alter metabolism on a cellular level. Estrogen, for instance, spares glycogen and increases fat oxidation. Progesterone raises core body temperature.
So applying a male protocol just doesn't work.
No, applying a nutritional protocol derived purely from a 22-year-old male college student to a 35-year-old female athlete is just biologically flawed.
It's a systemic lack of representation. We're actually going to dedicate an entire future deep dive specifically to women's physiology to properly unpack that. But let's bring this out of the lab for today. Most of us don't have an AI analyzing our microbiome swabs. What does applying this molecular dial look like in a normal person's routine?
Instead of overhauling your entire diet, focus on distribution. Pick one macronutrient, like protein.
Cool.
Often, people eat a massive steak at dinner and almost no protein at breakfast. Instead, focus purely on distributing your protein intake evenly, say 30 grams per meal across the day for the next 3 days. This simple, steady delivery optimizes muscle protein synthesis, keeping that molecular dial turned to repair and rebuild all day long.
I love that. Smooth, steady distribution. Now, that molecular dial dictates how efficiently our bodies burn fuel, but to actually train the body to burn fat efficiently and spare our precious carbohydrate stores, we have to look at how we exert ourselves. And that comes down to metabolic flexibility.
Which is really having a major moment in the literature right now, particularly through the lens of Zone 2 training.
Let's define that first. Metabolic flexibility is essentially your body's ability to act like a hybrid car, right? You want to be able to seamlessly switch between burning sugar for quick, high-intensity sprints and burning your deep stores of fat for the long, steady haul.
That is exactly the goal, and Zone 2 training is how you build that hybrid engine. It's defined as low-intensity endurance exercise, typically sitting between 66 and 80% of your VO2 max, which is the maximum amount of oxygen your body can utilize during intense exercise.
I like to explain it using the analogy of a highway system. Most people just want to buy a faster, flashier sports car. They do high-intensity sprint intervals constantly, pushing their heart rate to the absolute max.
Right, the no pain, no gain mentality.
Exactly. But Zone 2 training is like adding more lanes to the highway itself. You are building a massive, highly efficient cardiovascular network. You're adding density to your capillary beds so that when you do bring out the fast car, there's no traffic bottleneck.
You're fundamentally building mitochondrial health. And there's a 2026 clinicaltrials.gov study out of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, which, importantly, excellently included both male and female healthy adults, and it's looking precisely at this cellular adaptation.
But I have to admit, it feels so counterintuitive. Is going slower really the secret to getting faster? Because when you're out there in zone 2, your ego takes a hit. It feels like you aren't working hard enough.
It feels easy, yeah, but on a cellular level, you are doing heavy lifting. You are increasing the sheer number and efficiency of your mitochondria. Interestingly, that same 2026 study is also looking at combining zone 2 training with NR-nicotinamide riboside supplementation.
Okay, another complex term. What is NR physically doing in the cell?
Think of NR like a raw material delivery to a factory. Your cells need a vital molecule called NAD+ to act as a shuttle carrying electrons around to create energy. But as you age, or as you stress your body with heavy training, your fleet of NAD+ shuttles depletes. NR acts as the direct biological building block for NAD+ WUS. Theoretically, supplementing it restocks the fleet, allowing your mitochondria to keep the energy assembly line running without stalling out.
So they're trying to artificially boost the mitochondrial efficiency while the training physically builds the highway. That is fascinating.
It is. Now, to be completely transparent with the science, the dose-response results for NR supplementation are still pending. We don't know the exact optimal dose yet, so we can't definitively say it's a magic bullet. But it's absolutely a space worth watching.
Before anyone goes buying supplements, what is the free version of this? How do I actually know I'm in zone 2 this week without wearing a bunch of lab equipment?
It's a simple analog test. Do one workout this week strictly at a conversational pace. If you cannot speak in full, comfortable sentences to the person next to you while you're jogging or cycling, you are going too fast. You've left zone 2.
Right.
Swallow your pride, slow down, and build the highway.
And building that massive cardiovascular highway creates friction. It creates micro tears in the muscle and systemic stress. How the body manages that stress brings up a massive debate in sports science right now.
Okay.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah. You can't scroll social media without seeing someone shivering in an ice barrel. But is the cold plunge actually helping recovery?
According to 2025 research reviews from Dr. Oracle and Half, the reality is highly nuanced. Yes, cold plunging reliably reduces perceived muscle soreness and fatigue,
Okay.
but timing is absolutely everything. If you jump into a cold plunge immediately after a heavy resistance training session like lifting weights to build muscle, you are actively shooting yourself in the foot.
Break down the why there. I thought reducing inflammation was always the main goal of recovery.
Not always. When you lift weights, you create micro tears in the muscle fiber. The acute inflammation that follows isn't bad. It's actually a chemical siren.
A siren.
Yeah, that inflammation signals your immune system to rush to the site, clear out the debris, and lay down new, stronger tissue through a process called protein synthesis. When you jump into freezing water, you violently silence that siren. The cold plunge blunts the inflammatory signal, which significantly reduces muscle growth.
I look at cold exposure like a prescription medicine, not a daily gummy vitamin. It's a powerful tool, but it adds massive sympathetic stress to the nervous system.
Right, the sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight response. Freezing water triggers a huge adrenaline dump.
Right. So if your body is already overstressed from work, poor sleep, or massive training volume, dumping freezing water on yourself is just throwing gasoline on a fire. It can completely backfire.
And we also have to talk about how this prescription affects different bodies. A foundational 2014 study in the journal Cryobiology, which included both men and women, showed that the physiological response to cold immersion is entirely different based on gender.
How different are we talking?
Very different. Men generally experience a predictable cardiovascular response, like bradycardia, where the heart rate drops, alongside a strong adrenaline spike. Women, however, cool much faster. They exhaust their vasoconstrictor capacity much sooner.
Let's define vasoconstriction for the listener real quick.
Vasoconstriction is when your blood vessels clamp down to pull warm blood away from your fingers and toes to protect your vital organs. Women exhaust that protective mechanism faster, which means cold blood rushes to their core much quicker. They hit dangerous thermoregulatory limits faster than men.
So a 10-minute plunge protocol designed by a man, for a man, could actually push a female athlete into a dangerous state of overcooling.
Precisely. And just like with nutrition, the vast majority of cold plunge guidelines dominating the internet are derived from male-only studies. It's another critical flag for that upcoming women's physiology deep dive.
So for the person listening, how do they modify their routine to use this safely?
Shift the timing. Save the ice bath for after a pure endurance session. Or if you lift weights, wait at least 8 hours before plunging. And if you are a woman, actively shorten your exposure duration. Listen to your body's cooling rate, not an arbitrary timer on a phone app.
Now, if we are trying to manage nervous system stress, dumping ice water on ourselves might be the flashy way, but there's a much more foundational mechanism for recovery. We treat sleep like it's a luxury or just a fast-forward button to the next day. But sleep isn't the pause button on your training. It is the active save and update button for your entire body. If you don't sleep, you don't save the progress.
That is a perfect way to look at it. Deep sleep is when the majority of human growth hormone is released for muscle repair. It's also when motor skills, the perfect pedal stroke or lifting form you practice during the day, are consolidated in the brain.
Right.
A brilliant 2026 study by Brooderick out of Northwest University looked at university soccer players. And this study excellently included both male and female subjects.
What exactly were they looking at? Sleep seems pretty basic to study.
They implemented a strict 14-day sleep hygiene intervention protocol, known as SHIP. Just 2 weeks of aggressively structured sleep habits. The results were undeniable. Their anticipatory cortisol significantly decreased.
Anticipatory cortisol, is that like the nervous jitters you get before a starting gun?
Exactly. It's the stress hormone spike before an event. By managing their sleep, they dampened that biological stress response. Furthermore, their objective aerobic performance on something called the yo-yo intermittent recovery test, which is essentially a grueling, repeated sprint test, measurably improved.
Just from cleaning up their sleep for 2 weeks?
Yes. They also tracked gender differences in the response. Females in the ultra-endurance space often show more sleep variability, but in this study, the women showed marked increases in overall sleep duration. The men showed improved sleep latency, meaning they fell asleep much faster.
So everyone improved, just in slightly different ways.
Exactly. But across the board, performance went up. And we have to remember the key statistic in sleep science. Research shows that time to exhaustion drops by 11% after sleep loss.
You literally gas out 11% faster just from being sleep deprived. That is a massive competitive disadvantage. But how does the everyday athlete validate this? Pro athletes sleep in clinical labs. We don't.
This is where everyday technology is catching up. Wearables are now being utilized in clinical studies to accurately validate recovery scores. They track resting heart rate, sleep staging, and heart rate variability, or HRV.
HRV is a great metric. It measures the tiny millisecond gaps between your heartbeats to show exactly how recovered your nervous system actually is.
Having that laboratory-grade insight on your wrist is a game changer for validating if your sleep is actually working.
Actually, that's exactly what FitPA does. It connects to your wearable data and adapts your training so you can act on all this science instead of just reading about it.
Right, which is exactly what we want.
Okay, I want to see that 11% boost in my own training. What's the practical move tonight?
Pick just one strict sleep hygiene rule from the Brooderick study. Lower your bedroom temperature to around 65 degrees, or aggressively block out all ambient light from electronics or windows. Commit to that one rule for 14 straight days. Just observe how your workout energy changes. It is the ultimate free performance enhancer.
All right, let's synthesize this whole journey. We've covered a massive amount of ground today. To perform at your best, you have to feed your gut microbiome the right prebiotic fuel so your internal pit crew can recycle your energy.
Yep.
You need to build your cardiovascular highway by burning fat efficiently at a conversational pace in zone 2. You need to avoid blunting your hard-earned strength gains with poorly timed ice baths. And finally, you lock in all those physical cellular upgrades by hitting the save button with high-quality sleep.
It's a comprehensive interlocking system, and that actually brings up a fascinating point I want to leave you with, pulled from a 2026 CAS Sports Science report. The report stated bluntly, we no longer have a data problem in sports, we have a decision-making problem.
No.
Yeah, we have wearables, continuous glucose monitors, sleep trackers, and endless metrics. We are drowning in data.
So the provocative question to mull over on your next run or your next commute is this. Are you collecting all this data just to have it? Are you just looking at a neat, colorful graph on your phone? Or are you actually brave enough to change your comfortable habits when the numbers tell you to?
The science is clear, but the application is entirely up to you.
Just pick one small change we talked about today. Add that fermented food, slow down your run, or guard your sleep temperature. Remember, we aren't simple, predictable combustion engines. We are incredibly complex, highly adaptable ecosystems. Treat your body like one.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.